Hello, everybody. Welcome to an episode of the Hero's Journey podcast with Matthew Robinson, combat hypnotist, and Andy Steele, who's also a hypnotherapist, former firefighter, and paratrooper. Thank you for coming on the show today, Andy. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you for having me. I know you normally do sports guys, but yeah, let's see how this goes, eh?
Well, to be honest with you, the hero's journey is all about anybody that's walked the hero's path and had to combat the fights of life. And I can't think of anybody better than yourself. I've wanted you on my podcast now for a while. We're good friends. We've sort of known each other through the hypnotherapy community for a while now. You're on the speaking circuit. You've got a great story, and I'd like to believe that your story could help motivate and inspire some of our listeners on Spotify. So I'd like to start today just by offering you center stage, and perhaps you'd like to, just start off talking about, where you are now, what you're doing now, and then perhaps jump to the past where it all began, and then maybe look to the future and where you might want to go, end up, or do. So I'll let you have center stage, and yeah, this is going to be a good podcast. So over to you.
Cheers, buddy. Okay, so what am I doing now? I found myself kind of doing group work with businesses. I recently just done some work with Shell Oil up in Aberdeen. Uh, and 2 weeks ago, I organised a thing called a resilience gathering. When I was poorly with PTSD, I wasn't seeing stories of people getting well, people recovering. At the time on social media, it was 21 push-ups a day for the 21 veterans who end their lives every day. And I ended up coming off social media because of that, because I thought that's where I'm heading, that's where I'm sleepwalking to. So I organised this gathering to give people hope that you can recover from PTSD, CPTSD, all kinds of stuff, really. You're given a label, you don't have to live with it. What I like about labels, you can peel the fuckers off, chuck them in the bin. Um, so that was a big deal for me to do that in my own town of Carlisle. 'Cause I'd never really shared my story in my hometown, to be fair. And I got other speakers with stories to tell as well, to share insights. So that's kind of where I'm at, mate, really. Just getting the message of hope out there to people that you can recover. But like I mentioned just before we started the call or this podcast, you got to do the work. You've got to do the work. It's not going to happen for you. You've got to do the work, and it's not always comfortable. Um, so that's where I'm at, mate. And it kind of started, yeah, probably 9 years ago this year. Um, I was ill health retired from the fire service with PTSD, and that's how I got into the hypno stuff. Really, not necessarily to become a practitioner, um, but to get a load of help because I knew I needed it, and I was desperate to try anything to get well. And that's how I fell into this, really. Like I said, didn't intend to become a practitioner. It just kind of happened naturally, and I found I had a bit of a knack for it. But again, if I look back to the very start and knowing what I know now as a practitioner, when have you heard of the ACE studies, adverse childhood events?
No, I haven't. What
Yeah,
is
so
that?
there's two sets of studies, the ACE studies and the SENS, childhood emotional neglect studies. So the SENS are about stuff that didn't happen to us that should have done, like love and cuddles and nurture, all that kind of stuff. And ACEs, adverse childhood events, are kind of violence and abuse, all the rest of it. And there's a scoring system from 1 to 10. And if you score three or more, you're likely to develop PTSD, heart disease, and other mental illness later on in life in adulthood. And I
Wow.
scored 8 out of 10 in
Wow.
that. And the only 2 points I didn't score was my old man wasn't an alcoholic. He was just nuts and he didn't go to prison. And he obviously didn't get caught. Um, so knowing what I know now and seeing some of my colleagues that were firefighters that can still do the job, are still in the job, it makes sense to me why my nervous system wasn't able to cope with the things I saw as a firefighter. But then going back to the very beginning, childhood, I grew up in a house with three older sisters. Um, it was really chaotic time for a kid, really. Earliest memory, 4-year-old being beaten in the garden with a guard brush till I wet myself with fright because I'd spilt some soil on the grass. Um, I've still no idea what that was about, but it was quite a big memory for me to go back to as an adult, to heal that younger version of Andy. Again, I would go to school with cuts in my back, in the back of my legs, rope marks, whip marks, bruises, broken ribs, from kick-ins. He just had a really, really short temper. If I'd stood off the grass or at the soil border, for example, he would hold us and beat us with a rope. He threw an axe at one of my sisters because she'd asked him for something. He was just a real hot-headed bloke. He was a big bloke as well. I'm pretty big. I'm 6'2". My old man was kind of similar size, but kind of much broader, much bigger. Hands like fucking shovels. So you kind of never knew where you stood as a kid. And what's interesting now as an adult, I've become really, really good at watching people. It's great for a therapist because you're looking for little eye movements, little shifts, little body movements, little signs, telltales that they've gone somewhere to a memory. Um, so I'm thankful for that,
Wow.
really. It really gets you good at watching people. And I think that's born from the fact that you need to watch the person you're with to see if you're safe.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's had its advantages.
Does that come from when you were in the paratroopers?
No, mate, I think that's from childhood, really.
Hmm.
Just and kind of started from there, and I've probably needed it and nurtured it and grew it in the paras and the fire service, I guess.
Wow, that's
Um,
interesting. So it
yeah,
sounds like your nervous system has always been constantly vigilant, constantly scanning for threats.
yeah, I think it has, mate. And what's weird now, even though I've done a lot of work and I'm comfortable, if somebody touches me and without any warning, my body just kind of has a little jump. I don't.
Jump. Hmm.
Yeah, it's proper sensitive to touch. And again, that's probably that learned behavior from the past that if there's contact with your skin, there's something incoming,
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
coming.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. It's
but
funny that is, isn't it? Because some people say that the body is the largest part of the mind, the largest part of the unconscious mind, and some people also say the unconscious mind is the mind that's always conscious.
yeah, and I guess, again, I've just read recently that kind of the fascia is an organ, in a sense. We've got more than the five senses, so yeah, your skin, your fascia definitely is part of that.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
guess it's all honed from
Hmm.
experiences that we
Hmm.
kind of go through.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And is there, is there a part of the mind then that is quite reactive, almost like a reactive mind that, when things go off that are similar to things from the past, we might react in similar ways. Like for example, if you had PTSD from a war zone and then say firecrackers was to go off at fireworks event, you might react in the same way that you might react, or your nervous system might react in the same way as you might react when you're in a war zone, for example.
yeah, I mean, if that to me would make sense totally. And especially when you think and know that the mind doesn't know the difference between a real experience or an imagined one. And when we kind of go through trauma, um, I learned this off Kath Temple actually.
Have temple, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that our amygdala, when we go through stress and trauma, a thing called an AMPA receptor is formed on the amygdala,
yeah,
which under a microscope would look like a little bump or a hat pin, she describes.
yeah.
And that basically then becomes a pattern matching thing. So our body, our system is constantly, as we go through life, trying to predict or pattern match the same thing, event, so it can take appropriate action, response to either run, fight, flight, or freeze, do what it needs to do, really.
Mm, hmm. Yeah.
And I guess it's when it becomes overstimulated because we haven't done the work in terms of healing those events as they happen. And that's one thing we don't do, is it, as a society or as people, we just let things build, build, and build and build till eventually our cup is overflowing.
Yeah.
Where if we had the tools and understanding and knowledge
Yeah.
and it cultural from school to workplaces to do daily or weekly kind of declutter,
Yeah.
I don't think we'd ever get to that kind of glass full point really. And it was interesting when I'd done the talk up at Shell a couple of weeks ago. One of the guys asked me, if you knew all this stuff years ago, do you think you developed PTSD? And that's a really good question, that, because nobody's ever asked me that.
Good question. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
really
question.
good question. And I think because I've done a workshop as well with some of the tools and techniques, and I say the tools and technique can't replace doing the deep work. They're just to manage
Yeah.
anxiety and day-to-day stuff, really. And but I think if I'd come across EFT, muscle freedom technique, tapping, and hypnotherapy years before, then no, I don't think PTSD would have happened. But I did say to him, it says I was meant to go on this journey. I was meant to be broken down to do what I do now. But that doesn't mean that's your journey. It's like I've signed up to find the which ones are the wobbly stepping stones in the swamp and which ones are the good ones.
Yeah.
So I can help you find your way home. Not everybody's got to go through that, but obviously that's what I signed up to do, sole contract kind of thing. But it was a really good question if you looked at the workshop in isolation and maybe the hypnotherapy EFT in isolation, if you hadn't done that, because if those things, if I said no, those things wouldn't have prevented PTSD happening, what hope would it give people?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
hope is so important. I think
yeah.
it was a friend of mine. Actually, you probably know him, Daniel McDermott,
Yeah.
leads
Yeah.
hypnotherapy clinic. He's always said the acceptance of hope means it's not possible to be depressed. You can be
Mhm.
sad about being depressed, but you don't have to be depressed about being depressed.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Hope's
Yeah.
super important, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's two different types of hope, isn't it? There's the hope, the passive hope where you just, I hope it's going to happen, I hope it's going to change. But then there's the active hope of finding those people that have recovered and got well from whatever's going on, and you're going through the same thing. Then that's hope, isn't it? Because if it's humanly possible, it's possible for all of us
That's
because we're
right.
all the same.
That's right.
Yeah.
I like that. There's a very good book, again by someone we both know, which I read a long time ago, called No D in PTSD. You know the one?
Yeah, I know the one. Yeah.
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 What do you
Tell.
think about that statement in that book?
Well, I think he's right, and I do attempt to drop the D and change it to an R, response, not a disorder. Um, I think most labels are there to go down the pharmaceutical route, and that might be controversial, but I don't really care.
Okay.
Um, because I don't think the answer of anything is at the bottom of a pharmaceutical jar or at the bottom of a bottle of alcohol. The
Yeah.
answer, the answer is within us,
Yeah.
but we need to find a practitioner to hold our space and guide us. But I think we become our own healers essentially because
Yeah.
it's us that are doing the work. It's us that are talking to that younger version of us, that hurt version of us. So I think he's right when there's no D in PTSD because it is
Um,
a response. It
it's a
is a response.
response. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you mean? Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by you have to do the work?
So doing that for example, when I got into my healing journey and I needed to do some work, and the first kind of bit of work really was EFT and matrix reimprinting. So matrix reimprinting is an add-on to EFT tapping, where you go back as the older, wiser you and talk to the younger echo, the energetic hologram of us.
Yeah.
So I remember I asked, can I do something from last week that's easy so I can get to know the techniques? All this kind of stuff, Matthew, was totally brand new to me.
Yeah.
You know, the world I'd come from, fire service paras, I had nobody in my life to have a conversation about any of this stuff, any healing modality, hypnotherapy, EFT, Reiki, nothing. It was totally brand spanking new.
Wow.
So I didn't kind of feel safe with what I was doing, where I was going. So I said, can we work from last week? I was having an anxiety attack in the back of my car, and I was on sick leave at the moment from the fire at this time from the fire service. So basically, older, wiser me. I imagined I went to sit in the car with that younger version of me from a week before, got him to pull over, asked him how he was feeling, and I started tapping on him. Sorry, mate, I'm just doing this tapping stuff on you. And he says, I'm just scared, I'm anxious. I said, but we're going to be okay. Look, I've come from a week in the future, so you know you're going to be here in a week's time. So that calmed him down. And we continued with the kind of process. And then the therapist asked, right, just ask that echo. We're not going to go there today, but if we did go there today, where we would need to go to help heal the here and now. And I thought, the conscious me thought, it's got to be a job in the fire service, but bang, no, it was back to that 4-year-old version of Andy. And I was literally running in my chair. My feet were stomping because I was like, okay, not going there. I'm not going there. And I wasn't expecting that at all. Because it was so long ago, I didn't realize there was any energy with that.
Yeah.
Like I said to you before we started the podcast, that I've spoke to people and they'll say, the 54-year-old in front of me, yeah, I've sorted that, Andy. I've addressed that. I'm all good with that. Okay, then ask the 4-year-old, how do they feel?
Yeah.
And then their eyes will light up like rabbits in a headlight. And that's what that was like for me. I thought, fuck, where did that come from? So eventually I had to use EFT on the fear that I had, the Andy now talking to you, of visiting that earlier memory. So once I'd collapsed that fear of going there, I felt strong enough and brave enough to go and help little Andy. And that's what I call the deep work. So it was allowing
Brilliant.
Andy to act out, say what he needed to say, do what he needed to do that he couldn't do in that moment. Because when we're little, we're powerless
Yeah,
with the adults around us. So
that's right.
that's what I mean about doing the deep work. It's not always comfortable, but it's absolutely possible.
And I totally understand. I totally get where you're coming from. How important is it that you have these skills? How important is it that everybody has these skills so that they can do the deep work on themselves? Because we've all got work to do on
Mm.
ourselves, haven't we?
I think it's really important, mate. What's the alternative? That it festers, it turns into that dis-ease in the body. Will that turn into dis-ease if you don't do the work?
Mm.
I think there's evidence out there to show that it could potentially turn into disease. Um, and if you're suffering from a day-to-day basis because of what your nervous system is doing, I felt I had no control over what my body was doing. That's because I didn't have the understanding or wherewithal or the emotional intelligence at the time why my body was having sweats, nightmares, flashbacks. I
Yeah,
was getting anxious. I couldn't leave the house. I wasn't eating properly
yeah.
because I didn't know what I know now. So I think it is important to be able to do the deep work.
And how much does ego get in the way and stop people from doing that deep work?
I think I think a lot, mate. When I think about myself or my own journey, that need to project ex-paratrooper, firefighter, I can handle it and push on and push on. Ego definitely gets in the way, massive part to play. And it's about parking that ego up, really, or at least having a discussion with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the discussion is a caring, compassionate one rather than a sort of forceful, judgmental one.
Yeah. I think compassion for yourself, mate, is probably the most important thing we can do and really, really underestimated. When you think none of us would speak the way we do it to ourselves, to our best friend, our partner, our kids, but yet we do it to ourselves, and our body's listening to that, and our body responds to that. You'll know about the experiment. I think it was Sweden or Norway where they got kids to talk to plants,
I can't remember, but I'd like to know.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they got two two plants of the same species side by side, and the kids would come and speak to them every morning on the way into school. So one of them had a list of negative words and positive words with the other plant, and the plant with the negative words didn't survive, where
Wow.
the one with the positive one did, and they repeated the experiment. They kept repeating it, so it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't that one wasn't getting enough water or enough sun or anything like that.
Mm.
It was the words are powerful. And there's a thing I say in my talks, and I get a little wand out, a little. I haven't got it here, but do you know what abracadabra means?
Oh, do you know what? Someone told me this the other day,
Yeah,
and typical. I tend
it's
to
gone.
remember things
Bing.
two or three times before. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go on.
I create what I speak.
create what I
what I
speak.
speak. So abracadabra, bing, and it's created something, hasn't it?
Yeah,
So when we
I
think
love
about
that.
that internal chatter, those internal words,
Yeah,
and that your body mind doesn't know the difference between real or imagined,
yeah.
it's going to create whatever you're thinking about. And your body has no option
Mm.
at all to feel in line with what you're thinking about, what your thoughts are, what your words are.
Why
You'll have
is
done
it?
the
Why is that?
you'll have done the lemon exercise, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you want me to do it now for your audience who may never?
yeah, yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're going to
Just
do a lemon exercise now. So if you're not driving, operating any heavy machinery,
Mm. So, got a really big lemon.
wow, there's a big lemon. So
Yeah.
for those guys that are listening on Spotify, Andy's holding a rather large lemon. It's about the size of a balloon.
Yeah. So, if you're not driving, if you're at home comfortable, what I would normally do with a client or at my talks, I would get people to close their eyes, hold their hand out, and just imagine, only imagine I put this big, fat, juicy lemon in the hand. Just imagine you can really feel the weight of that big, fat lemon. Just
Yeah,
imagine feeling how heavy that is in your hand now. And just imagine now if I slice into that lemon, the zest, the zing, the juices would really start to ooze and flow of that lemon. And just imagine if I asked you to stroke your thumb over that lemon, you'd feel that knobbly, waxy texture that lemons have. And now what you do now, just gently lift that lemon towards your nose and take a big sniff. Let some of the zest, the zing race up your nose to the back of your brain. And now what I want you to do now, just imagine now you're going to sink your teeth into that lemon. Almost when you start to get that furry feeling on your teeth because it's so bitter, that raw rind, that flesh of that big, fat, juicy lemon. So then I'd get them to open their eyes and ask them, did they get any of those four senses, that either weight, the touch, the smell, or the taste? And they usually get one or more. Can be quite subtle. My mouth waters, I can taste the lemon. So what I'm saying there is, I'll ask them, where's the lemon? And the funniest thing the other day, school teacher, she had a hand out and I says, right, where's your lemon? Because she said she got all four senses. And she kind of turned and tipped her hand. She went, oh, I've dropped it.
chopped it.
Dropped it. Yeah. And I said, there is no fucking lemon. There's no lemon. It was all in your mind. By you thinking of that lemon, it created those four senses in your body because your body mind system doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. So it's imagine we've got a client come to see us for fear of flying. Yeah.
Yep.
They're telling themselves that the plane's going to crash. So
Yeah.
why on earth would their body feel calm when it's believing your story? Because it doesn't know that you're just imagining that. As far as it's concerned, that's a real possibility.
Yeah.
You're packing your suitcases, you get a little bit anxious because your body's going, hold on, Andy, why are you packing your suitcase? You're telling me that plane's going to crash.
Yeah.
Next thing I'm in the car, my hands are getting a little bit sweaty because I'm getting close to the airport. Your body can't send you a text or an email, so it kind of increases your heart rate a little bit because you're not fucking listening. Now you're handing your passport in, getting your tickets. Right, you're really getting a sweat on now. Your breathing's getting short and shallow. You're walking down the tunnel. You're right, starting to get really panicky now. Next thing, your seatbelt's on. The air hostess has closed the door. It's like,
Oh
fucking
no.
get me off this fucking plane because you're not
Oh,
listening to me, Andy. You told me it's going to crash. We're going to die.
oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm actually
So,
flying to Lithuania on Saturday. I'm like, tell me another story quick.
yeah. So, that's all in our minds.
It's in your mind,
So
yeah.
if we've told ourselves that story, your body has no option but to believe you and create the feelings in line with what you're thinking about. So if you're thinking about lying on the beach, sunny holiday, pina coladas, you're going to feel pretty cool and relaxed. If you're thinking about stroking that dog that you've got that you love to the moon and back, you're going to feel pretty good.
Yeah.
If you start telling yourself some really unhelpful, negative stories, you are going to feel in line with that. You have no option.
That's true. That is, I do a lot of work with fighters, obviously, and
Mm,
sometimes when I get them to visualize fighting, throwing a punch, throwing a kick, whatever,
mm.
I get them to visualize it, and they'll actually tell me that they're visualizing throwing a punch or a kick, and then literally the neurons will be firing in their brains, and then their muscles will start flinching in their arms and their
Yeah, yeah,
legs
yeah.
because neurons that fire together wire together.
Yeah. I'm trying to think which university was it in the States. So that, oh gosh, it'll come to me. So they've done a study where they got people to imagine they were lifting weights, and the group of people that did lift weights, and the guys that just imagined lifting weights increased their strength by 35%, and then never lifted a finger, literally just used imagination. And I think 4 to 6 weeks after the study finished, that increased from 35% to about 43% increase in strength,
That's
where the
brilliant.
guys who lifted that physical weights increased their strength by 53.
Mm.
How bonkers is that? Just through visualization.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it tells me your imagination, your visualization thing can either be your best friend or your worst enemy, depending where you're putting your focus.
That's without a doubt. Similar experiments I've heard done with basketballs and three throws. So yeah, that's a it's a true phenomenon for sure. So I'm interested in this PTSD. If we can jump back to that or
Yeah,
forward to that to the present day, is this something that still bothers you, haunts you, hinders you in any way, shape, or form?
no, not at all.
That's good.
But
That's
that said, I think it does change you.
hmm
I think it maybe makes you, I don't want to use the word cautious, it's not right, more aware of your actions, more aware of you not doing the work, more aware of how things can build up. Um, yeah, it just changes you, mate. When I think how poorly I was, like you say, the nightmares, the flashbacks, the sweats, not eating, even the noise of a Volvo truck, the engine. I was walking down the street one day, and there was a street out of my line of sight, but I could hear this engine noise, and it sounded just like a fire truck. And it wasn't. It was a Pioneer food delivery wagon, but it was a Volvo, same kind of engine note. And that kind of, I didn't want to see it. I kind of turned around to
wow.
go the opposite direction. Um,
That's interesting.
yeah,
So
but none of that now, mate. It's.
it's good.
But I'll tell you what's interesting as well. I think my response to kind of blood and gore when you watch movies and stuff like that, my response now is probably a normal response. It's like, oh, yeah, where before it just wouldn't enter at all. And if I see somebody fall or hurt themselves, I get this funny feeling in my knees. It's like, when you fall on your knees and you get that certain kind of funny feeling. I
Yeah,
get, I
yeah.
get kind of that, and I think, and I've never had that before. And I really believe that my response now to that kind of stuff is normal and how we should all be feeling
So
rather than
yeah,
being numb.
being numb. I was going to ask you what that feeling was that you had before normal. So a numb feeling.
Yeah, well, I suppose something, Matthew. I don't even know if numb is the right word. It was probably either I didn't let those, I'm just kind of think back to the fire service stuff, either not let those things enter my system, my body, my thoughts, or if they did, I just pushed them down at my feet in an instant because you had a job to do and maybe onto another job.
That
And
sounds
then
like
you,
repression or
yeah, kind
suppression.
of,
Yeah,
possibly. But you had a job to do, a task to do.
yeah,
It's not like I could go and sit on the back of the truck and cry and just fucking whatever.
yeah.
I had to get the cutting tools off, cut the bodies out of the vehicles, put the vehicle out if it was on fire, or yeah, you had a job to do. And then you'd think, yeah, I'll deal with that later, I'll deal with that later. But you didn't because you ended up going to another job somewhere else or back to the
Okay.
station. And I always heard from other firefighters when I joined the fire service was the drip effect of trauma.
Drip effect of trauma.
Yeah, yeah,
What
just
is
kind
that?
of, it's just you'll attend the job, so you take that trauma on, but it might not kind of bother you. Go to another job, take some more trauma on. That might not bother you, but it's building up and building up. It's all like we've all got a glass, and I use this with clients. We've all got a glass within us that deals with trauma. I don't know how big yours is. I don't know how big mine is, but you don't know it's full until it's fucking full.
Yeah,
It's if you imagine all the nerve endings around the top of your bottle.
yeah.
So when that last thing goes in, it just like bush,
Okay.
overwhelm.
Yeah,
And so what it's about now is getting that glass empty
yeah.
because we can't stop life happening.
That's right.
Nobody can. So if we get that glass empty or start to empty, it gives us tolerance to
hmm
deal with life when stuff
Tolerance to
happens.
deal with
Because
life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think again with this kind of work that we're doing, buddy, I think your perspective changes. So I don't think we can take things on in the same way because we can look at it from a different perspective than maybe we did in the past. But that said, I wouldn't want to do the firefighter's job again. I would not want to put another body in a bag. I just wouldn't have. I know I've done my duty, my time with that. I've just had it. But I remember when I was poorly, I was leaving home with my partner to go to a meditation class, and we got to the end of the street, and I could see some flames licking out the back of a house. I says, right, you've got to pull over, call 999, and I'll go and see what the crack is. So I ended up knocking on the door. There was no answer, so I opened the door, went in. There was two old dears sitting drinking wine. No idea that the back of the house was on fire.
Wow.
I said, right, get your fucking asses out. Called the fire service, and I went to the back of the house, and it was some kind of electrical fault. Flames were licking out the kitchen window. Got me ass out because I had no fire kit or anything. And the engine that rocked up was actually my watch that I would have been on if I wasn't off on the sick. But I was really pleased with myself that I hadn't gone to pieces, that I'd just gone into autopilot and gone in there and just, if somebody needed to drag out, I'd fucking drag them out. And the watch rocked up, and I had some Crocs on my feet. Everybody knows what Crocs are.
Yeah.
And one of them looked down at my feet, went, Andy, see them holes in your Crocs? I went, yeah. She says, that's where your dignity seeps out. I thought, you fucker. So they still had
Brilliant.
humour, still taking the piss.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
so even though I was poorly at the time, mate, there was something within me that was still able to respond in an
And
appropriate way, which I kind of give me a little bit of comfort actually, because I felt really bad at the time.
you felt really bad at the time.
Mm.
Okay. How much of that was down to the mindset of red light, green light, go, go, go?
Interesting, because I've just had a conversation with a guy I used to serve with in Para, and he works for a veterans charity down south called Pilgrims Bandits, and I do 10 hours a week up north for a charity called One Vision Uniform Services, and we're having a discussion on parachute regiment recruits and soldiers in particular. My kind of, I'm 54 now, our kind of age. So when we recruit, you were kind of told that you're the best of the best. You can't fail. You just got to keep on going. Another step, keep going, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep going, keep pushing. You can't be beaten. So we don't know how to fail,
That's
and we
interesting.
and we really struggle with that. And I guess the first time I failed at anything of significance was when I left the fire service with PTSD. I'd passed my driving test after 3 lessons. I passed parachute regiment training first time, runner up for champion recruit. Yeah, so I didn't know how to fail. And we've both come across guys, ex-reg, that when things have gone wrong, they really kind of struggle with who they are as a person,
Mm.
really.
Hmm.
It kind of breaks them down a little bit. And again, back to the resilience gathering that I put on a couple of weeks ago, I used a logo of bamboo
Bamboo.
because bamboo kind of bends with the breeze, with the wind. It's
Hmm.
flexible, it's
Hmm.
giving, it's soft. And I say to people, we have a thing especially in the UK, I think of a culture of being a strong oak. We kind of associate the oak with being strong, don't we? And
Yeah.
steadfast.
Hmm.
I'll go to any forest where you've got an oak after a storm, and you'll always find broken oaks.
Yeah.
They've always lost a limb because they're not giving. They've
Yeah.
tried to be strong and steadfast. And as a human, if we keep trying to keep pushing, be strong and not give and not be flexible, we're going to burn out in the
Yeah.
same way as an oak loses a limb. But yet we think and believe that resilience is keep going. But resilience isn't that. Resilience is when you fall down, you get back up. You fall down, you get back up.
Mm. That's very interesting definition of resilience. I like that. So when you fall down, you get back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Reminds me of Aikido,
Uh-huh.
the training.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And I like that metaphor as well of the bamboo because, the softest thing doesn't snap, it just bends and then goes back to its
yeah,
original position. So yeah, the oak tree with all its strength and all of its rigidity is the first thing that gets pulled up in a hurricane.
yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. So are you okay to talk about some of your traumatic experiences?
Yes, yes, I am, mate.
I meant to ask you before we started, so I apologize for putting you on the
No, no,
spot.
cool. I'm happy to
Um,
talk about anything, mate. And I guess again, back to the childhood stuff. It, yeah, it definitely sets your nervous system up for how you deal or respond to trauma in adulthood. Maybe not on a conscious level, but definitely on a subconscious, unconscious level. When I
yeah,
think about the way food was kept away from us in the house, and it was locked away, padlocked. We had a big chest freezer. It was it was so much food in it, mate. Had a big gas bottle on it to keep the lid down. But it had a
wow,
padlock and chain round it, had a little bit of slack in it. So my sisters could lift the lid up. I would put my hand in because I had tiny little hands then. And they would cook us the food. The cupboards were full of food. Sometimes it was mouldy, sometimes it would have maggots in it. But if we took the food, we were threatened with the police or beaten.
wow.
And I know, yeah. So I like fresh food now, and I love cakes and biscuits now because we
Bet
were
you
never
do.
allowed that stuff then. I like
Wow,
eat it now because I can. I'm allowed to.
that's terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't the best, mate. It wasn't the best, but it's all
What?
on you. It's all on you, and it wasn't until kind of adulthood really that, and I got talking to my sisters, how how bad it was at times, And recently, I've been kind of pulling information together for a book I'm going to put together. And when I'm writing something down, a memory down, another memory will pop up, and another memory will pop up, and I'll think, is that my memory? Is that somebody else's memory? So I've had to run them by my sisters. Did this really happen? Did it not happen? There was one where I could just see this image in my mind's eye of him kind of holding me by the hand so I couldn't run away, and he was watching me drown some puppies, and I didn't want to be there. I was only maybe 6 or 7, and he wanted to toughen me up, and I'm like, I don't want to be fucking toughened up. And I wasn't sure if that was my memory, and I run it by my sister. Said, "Yeah, he's done it with you a few times to try and toughen you up." I
Wow,
think that's why I've got a soft spot for animals now, especially doggos. Um,
wow. That's heavy. That's
yeah,
heavy. That's heavy. Yeah.
well, I think, mate, back in them days when there wasn't social media, and I think if your dog had a litter of pups, that's maybe what happened to them then, because you couldn't advertise them on Facebook because that didn't exist. Did guys just drown them then? But was there any need to do it in front of a 7-year-old? Definitely not, because I know I wouldn't be doing that with my boy. That's for sure.
That's right. Yeah,
Um,
that's right. No,
yeah,
I get that. I get that, and it's interesting what you say about memories and false memories as well,
yeah,
because I've met lots of people that have described things that have happened to them as a baby, for
uh,
example, even prenatal, before you're born, and they've
right.
described things accurately, accurately. And to them, that was true. I've had similar things happen to me, and not necessarily being born or anything like that, but things happened to me when I was young, and I've confirmed with my parents that that
Mhm.
happened, and that's what happened. So it's surprising, actually, what your subconscious can remember.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's also the fact that I had to question it because that memory just wasn't anywhere other. It just kind of sprang up out of the blue when I was writing about other stuff. That's why I thought, is that mine? Is that somebody else's? Has somebody else told me that story?
Mm.
And run it by my sisters. Yeah, yeah. So then, are you wanting to move on to the fire service stuff now?
So
Military.
yeah, if that's okay, let's talk about the military. So you decided, how old were you when you volunteered for the parachute regiment?
16 and a half when I signed the dotted line, and I went to basic training a few months later. Back in 82 when the Falklands was on, I was about 11-year-old, and there was a program on the TV called The Paras, following some recruits through basic training. It was quite a famous show back in the day. And my old man was watching it, and he went, "They're men, they're proper fucking men." I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, I'm having that. I'm going to fucking show you.
How interesting.
So I had that in the back of my mind from the age of 11 that I'm going to earn a red beret. I'm going to show you that I am a man.
Wow.
So that's what I did, mate. So I never intended to be a career soldier. I just wanted to earn the maroon beret.
Hmm.
Signed on for 3 years, stayed in for 5, and 2 year tour in Northern Ireland. And the whole of the recruits from that my platoon went to 3 para because we were going to Ireland for a 2 year tour.
What was that
And
like?
oh yeah, set the scene for you. So during basic training, we're shown some footage of 2 off-duty soldiers, signallers that accidentally drove towards a funeral cortege. They didn't drive into it, they drove towards it. One of them had been in the province for quite a while. The other was a new to the area, and the older guy was shown the new one, their area of responsibility, the area they would be working. And they hadn't cleared it with the ops room, so they shouldn't have been there because the ops room would have told them, keep out of West Belfast, there's a big funeral on. Because the
Hmm.
funeral was for two people who were killed at a funeral or murdered at the funeral the week before by a guy called Michael Stone with a handgun and grenades. And that
Okay.
funeral was for some IRA members that were killed the week before by the SAS in Gibraltar. So tensions were really high.
Wow.
So we were shown this footage of these two soldiers being dragged out the car, stripped, driven to some waste ground where they were stabbed and shot with their own weapons.
Jesus.
And there's kind of a famous picture of a priest giving them their last rites, and that priest had something to do with the Good Friday peace agreement in the end.
Hmm. Wow.
So I'm watching this thinking, fucking hell, I've only handed my paper around in a few months ago. What the fuck? What the fuck am I getting into?
You're just a boy.
Yeah, I was, man, just a boy. When I see my boy, my son now, he's 24, and still see him as my boy, my baby boy. And I think when he's 50 and I'm fucking 80, he'll still be my baby boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd made my mind up. I wanted to be in the Reg. So I turned 18 in December after basic training. So I got to battalion at 17, turned 18 in the December. 2 weeks later, we're in Belfast for a 2-year tour.
Wow.
Busy, busy 2 years, mate, really, for a youngster and for the battalion. And before we went out there, the RSM, Regimental Sergeant Major, got the whole battalion together. And he said, right, guys, have a look left and right. There's probably about 10 of you who won't be coming back after
Wow.
this tour. And I remember looking, thinking, oh, it's fucking, I'm with the Paras. We're going to be all right. Naively. But yeah, he wasn't far off the mark, really, mate.
Wow. Wow.
Three lads were killed in a landmine, um, roadside bomb. It doesn't matter how good a soldier you are, you can't do anything to defend that. The
Mm.
command wire went over the border to Southern Ireland, where they knew the IRA couldn't kind of be captured really. They could do what
Wow.
they kind of wanted.
Jesus.
Uh,
So how did that fill up your amygdala bucket like that
that in particular incident, mate, was survivor's guilt.
okay.
Um, remember at the time, a thought came, it should have been me, not them.
Okay. Should have been
Um,
you.
yeah, they've got family and friends at home that love them. I don't. Well, can you just pause the video, mate?
Yeah, yeah, let me just one moment.
Oh, man.
So we're back. Andy didn't have an abreaction, he had cramp.
Yeah, sorry, guy. Proper cramp in the back of my
Shit
left thigh.
happens.
Gosh. Yeah, so where we at? Yeah, survivor's guilt, mate. So
Survivor's guilt.
that thought appeared in my mind and went in a flash
Yeah.
in that moment, and I never give it a great deal of thought until I got to the healing journey, really.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and it kind of popped up out of the blue.
So what
Popped up.
happened?
I was on my EFT training, and I can't remember what we were actually working on at the time, but somebody said, "Is that survivor's guilt, Andy?" And it was like fucking bang. Really strong emotions came up for us to do some tapping on, some of the EFT on. And somebody presumed it was survivor's guilt from the fire jobs. There was a little bit in that as well, there was. But in the main, it was the guys that were killed at Mayo Bridge. And I couldn't believe that was in my system from like 20 years prior, really.
Now, if my memory serves me well, is
Mhm.
that what's commonly referred to as a soul contract?
Um, Possibly, mate. Possibly. I'll come on to the soul contract thing when we get to my healing journey. I've,
Brilliant.
yeah, I've got a bit of a hit story on that one. Um,
Crack on.
so yeah, so the military, so Northern Ireland, yes. So three lads were killed at Mayo Bridge. One was killed by a joyrider. Joyriders back then were thieves, stealing cars left, right, and centre. And because we were patrolling the middle of the streets, literally down the white lines,
Yeah.
um, to kind of keep us a little bit safe from any devices that might have been hidden in lampposts, in people's garden walls. Because one of the guys, when we went back to do an emergency tour, he stepped in somebody's garden and he's got his bloody legs blown off with a device that was hidden in
Jesus.
somebody's front garden. So that was always in the back of our minds. Um,
Constantly on vigilance.
yeah, yeah, you have to be on your toes, mate, really. No time for sleeping.
No time for
Um,
sleeping.
no, and one of my friends, Tony, I was in Aldershot with Tony. This was after the tour. He was flying back to Belfast the following day to sort his wedding arrangements out of a girl he met in that 2 year. And the taxi driver who picked him up from the airport gave his location away to the IRA.
Oh no.
The IRA sent a team round, but the driver of the getaway car was an informant, a guy called Martin McGartland. If anybody wants to look into him, there's a book and a film called 50 Dead Men Walking.
50 dead men walking.
50 Dead Men Walking. So I believe any of us in three para of that era could be any of the 50 Dead Men Walking because of the information he gave to Special Branch about IRA movements and things.
Right.
So often roads, streets, buildings, locations, areas will be put out of bounds to troops
Yeah.
because they're being tipped off that the IRA were planning something.
Wow.
But the IRA were kind of getting on top of this guy because everything he was involved with was going wrong.
Hmm.
So they give him this one job to do, really small team, and if it went wrong, they'd know he was the grass. And he kind of knew that. So he didn't tell his handler what he was going to do. So he had to let Tony's murder go ahead. So basically, they drove to his house, knocked on the door, pinned his girlfriend against the wall, and shot Tony in the head and chest.
Jesus Christ.
Um, and the only person charged for Tony's murder was the actual taxi driver who gave his location away.
Bloody hell.
Because the idiot, after he dropped Tony off, had walked around the corner where the police station was and they'd caught him on CCTV using the phone, traced the time, where the call went into West Belfast, and that's how he was kind of caught.
Wow.
Um, so even off duty, we weren't kind of safe. Um, and another guy I was best friend in basic training with, he stayed on after the tour, joined the IUC, and he was killed on his way to work. I don't know the circumstances there, but I always talk about him out of love and respect for him because he was a really, really good guy. And two guys tragically drowned in a river crossing. Often we'd have to cross rivers to check for such devices, like happened in Mayo Bridge, command wise and stuff. But one of them got into difficulty, and the other went to help, and they both tragically drowned. So yeah,
Tragic.
eight guys in the time I was in three para.
Wow.
Um,
How did you cope with how did you deal with the fear? 'Cause I
I didn't
could,
have any, mate. I did totally different mindset. Initially,
wow.
when I first went to Belfast, probably just young and a bit naive and green, but I felt really safe because I was with the paras. And whether it's a bit of imposter syndrome, probably was. I never really saw myself as a paratrooper.
Okay.
I always felt on the outside looking in a little bit, but I still felt safe. I always felt I had my back, and I'm glad was there with that regiment than anybody else. We'd see other regiments how they performed. They weren't professional, they weren't good, and often they wouldn't patrol part of West Belfast because they deemed it too dangerous. But we were like, "Fucking no, we're going in. We'll patrol it." Because if you didn't patrol it, it'd give the IRA the opportunity to plant devices and command wires and stuff.
Hmm.
Often they would plant command wires in new builds, in houses, in new walls,
Hmm.
in the concrete, the bricks and mortar.
Hmm.
You can't detect or find those, and so they would be used at a later date when it kind of suited them. So yeah, not a great deal of fear, not like I felt later on in the fire service, I guess, Matthew. But again,
So do you want to talk about the fire service and that fear? Where did that come from, and how did that come about?
interesting, mate. Interesting. I've been asked that before. I'm just trying to tune into when that kind of started. I really, yeah, I know when it was. I know when it was. So it wasn't my first fatal. My first fatal came through as a garage fire. So we were kind of pretty cool, pretty calm. Got there. Obviously, it wasn't a garage fire. It was a vehicle on fire in the middle of the road. Wagon driver on his mobile phone ran into some stationary traffic, and the car and he just ran right over the top of it, and it burst into flames. So we arrived, put that out, and the fire service, sorry, the police were like, right, guys, go back to the station. We'll call you when we need you. Go and get your dinner. And I'm thinking, what the fuck do they need us for? We put the fire out.
Yeah.
But so we ended up going back after we had our dinner to do the body recovery, really.
Hmm.
And that was really strange because we weren't under blue light, so the adrenaline wasn't flowing. It was really cold, calm, just nobody was speaking to each other in the back of the truck. There was no banter
Yeah.
because we kind of knew what we were going to do. And we were told when we got there after a wrecker had pulled the wagon off the top of the wreckage that there may have been two youngsters in the back of the car as well.
Shit.
And luckily there wasn't. But I remember sifting through the debris looking, is this a part of something? Is this a part of something? And then the next thing the police said, no, no, we've found the kids. They're somewhere safe.
Okay.
And then it was just the retrieval of what was left in this car. And I remember not being nice at all, but it was okay. It was okay. And then I forget how many jobs between that and this next one. But this next one was a nighttime job. Got the vehicle on fire, wagon again. Bit of a theme going on with wagons and fucking cars.
Hmm.
And there was a group of people on the other side of the road, so I presumed that whoever's in the car had got out. But naively, Matthew, looking at it now, it was impossible. Just the state of the place, the diesel, the debris on the road. I remember getting to the vehicle and putting my head in, and I could see two people in there. This car was on well alight. We couldn't do anything there. But I remember my kind of stomach turning, kind of walloped in a 360, and I remember screaming internally like, fucking hell, not again.
Right.
Like, fucking hell. So we put the fire out and the police closed the road for the night, and it was the watch the next day that done the recovery there. And I always feel bad for those guys because now that's two watches that have been traumatized.
Hmm.
No, it should have been us to continue that job as horrible as it was,
Hmm.
but that's just the way the service works.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then can't remember how long after that. Another job, again, vehicle on fire. I was really unlucky, mate, to get these vehicle fires with people in them because they are quite rare, but
Mm.
just with shift patterns and stuff, I managed to get them. So there was five youngsters in this car,
Hmm.
perished, nothing we could do. There's somebody lying in the hedgerow, there's somebody lying trapped in another vehicle. So we got the person in the hedgerow away in an ambulance, the person freed out of the other vehicle away in an ambulance, and then it was the clean-up job to do. And the boss asked, right, who wants to stay behind to do it? Um, my head went down. I couldn't do it.
And how do you feel?
Then just, yeah, I felt sick to the core, mate. I'd had my fill by that point. Because the other job I just told you about where my stomach turned, the job was never the same for me after that day. It was
Yeah.
almost like somebody had smeared my goggles with grease.
Right.
Yeah, it just life had become dull. It was really weird, but I didn't connect the dots. I did not connect the dots
Didn't connect
at
the
all.
dots. No.
No, I didn't realize that that would have that impact on my body and my mind. I just no idea, mate. I was totally unaware of this stuff that we do now.
Yeah.
So that job, the boss decided he could see nobody was really up for it, and whether he could see I really wasn't up for it. He
Hmm.
sent the engineer back to the town to cover anything else that came in, and
Hmm.
left the other machine at the job to do the cleanup job. But I felt relief that I didn't have to do it, but I carried guilt and shame for yeah a long time.
Gosh, a long
That
time.
6 foot two paratrooper didn't step forward to recover those bodies from that car. I felt fucking awful, mate. Absolutely awful.
Because you never fail at anything
Yeah, yeah.
and you felt like you weren't a man.
Oh yeah, felt a complete fucking failure, mate. Complete failure.
But that wasn't true, was it?
No, and you know what's interesting, mate? Only this year, when I'm pulling all this information together for my book, that incident came up,
Yeah.
and I thought, you know what? I'm going to go back and help that version of Andy on my own, no practitioner. I went back and we done some EFT matrix.
Yeah.
Asked him to let go of that guilt, that shame.
Yeah.
You know, mate, you've done more than most people. You've done more than enough. You know. your time. You've
Yeah.
yeah, it's somebody else's turn now, buddy, kind of thing. We had that kind of conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt really good, Matthew, that I could go back to that hideous job, walk around it, and sit in the back of the fire engine with that version of me.
Wow, it's making the hairs on my neck stand up.
Um,
So that's that's
so I took
that's
some time out.
amazing.
I took some time out after that. I went to fire safety because I needed some time out, mate. I just had my
Yeah.
fill, and I knew if I went to fire safety, it'd give us a break I need because you hear time's a great healer, don't you?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
they
but
say.
it's bullshit. It's fucking utter bull. You need to do the work.
You
So
need to do the work.
you do. So to keep my skills up as a firefighter, I'd only have to go on the back on the watch once a month.
Yep.
So I thought, happy days. I can cope with being exposed to trauma once a month. I'll be fine, be grand.
Yeah.
So a couple of years went by. I felt quite good in myself, mate, and I missed the watch. I missed the crack, and I actually missed what I joined up to do, and that was be at that sharp end, as
Yeah.
grotesque as it was at times. But I felt I was okay.
Yeah.
Put a transfer back to the watch. First fatal back was a body recovery in the river. And I remember swimming across the river, and I said to my oppo, "Fuck, I hope we don't find him." And I felt really shit for saying that, but he said, "Andy, I hope we don't either." So I felt a bit better that he was feeling the same way I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm thinking, fuck me, we're firefighters. We're here. We've got this job to do. Why the fuck am I thinking that? But it turns out the boat crew, the lads in the boat had found him and had pulled him to the side. And I remember I needed to go and have a look to see how I would respond, to see how I would react to seeing another fatal,
Mm.
to see if I'd made the right decision. And I remember going having a look and kind of patting my body, thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm all right. I haven't gone to pieces. I'm good. I've made the right decision." Um,
So, what was, I can tell you you're deep in thought. What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
right, there's probably a couple, mate. So not long after that, my last fatal in the fire service, card and wagon again, fucking theme there.
Jesus, three.
Um, Person in the vehicle car died instantly. Wagon had gone down a ditch. The wagon driver was relatively unharmed, but it was a really complex job because of his load and really precarious angle and where this vehicle was. Took us quite a while to cut him free, but in the back of my mind, I knew this person was to deal with up in the road. They weren't a priority because they were already
Yeah, I get it.
passed.
Yeah.
Um, but in the back of my mind, they were there. Just in the back of my mind, it was to deal with. It was to deal with. So we got the wagon driver away, and because I was the older firefighter on duty, not in charge, but the guy in charge never gets hands on because he needs to survey and view the whole scene for
Okay.
safety, make sure nothing gets missed. But I took it upon myself as the older firefighter to kind of get to work. And I remember putting my hand in the vehicle to see where this body was trapped, and suddenly I felt really sick, really dizzy. Thought I was going to faint. I think, what the fuck? Next thing, I'm having an out of body experience. I'm
Wow.
like 12 feet from my body, looking down at the whole scene,
Wow.
and I had my fire kit on. It wasn't like I'd floated out with in a birthday suit or anything like that. I could
Wow.
actually see my fire boots, my tunic, my leggings, but I could see the fire engine below me. I could see the car below me, the guys wandering around. I'm thinking, can they fucking see me up here? What the fuck am I doing? And before I know it, mate, I've no idea how long I was there for, but obviously I didn't want to be there. And my fucking soul was saying, I'm taking you out, sunshine, you're fucking going. But I
Wow.
found myself back next to the car with the cutting gear in my hands, cutting the roof and the door off, then stepping inside the vehicle to pick this person up. And I remember kind of working my way towards the edge of the vehicle to pass them over. And I don't know if it was where my head was, but it looked like the guys had stepped back because they didn't want to put their hands on them, which I totally get. But I just snapped. I went, "Fucking give us a hand, will you?" And they did.
Mm.
They stepped in, and I passed them over, and we put that person in a bag. And I remember the copper who does the accident investigation. He unzipped the bag to take photos, and I snapped. I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing? Leave them alone!
Wow.
Fucking leave them alone!" I was having a bad day, mate. I was having a
Yeah.
fucking bad day.
Of course you were.
And he said, "Mate, I'm just doing my job." And I like, "Oh, fucking hell, mate. I'm sorry. I know you are." I says, "I'm really struggling." So I've no idea how you can do that job. I says, can I give you a
Yeah.
hug? And he went, yeah, you can. So I give him a hug. And then I thought, you know something, I'm having tomorrow off. I'm going to fucking take tomorrow off.
Yeah,
But
too
I
right.
didn't. But I didn't take it off, Matt,
You
because I knew
didn't.
if I no, I knew if I didn't go back in, I would never go back.
You'd never go back.
So I continued to go into work, which this is when everything started to kick off. Anxiety, panic attacks, palpitations, being on fire. My nervous system was on fire big time.
Wow.
But I had no idea what to do with it. I had no idea if it would go away with exercise. So
Yeah.
I'd try and go and run it off, go to the gym, pray we wouldn't get a shout. I'd literally hide in a fucking broom cupboard with no lights on and hope we didn't get a shout. And when we did, this fucking tight, how I never had a heart attack, mate, I'll never fucking know.
Wow.
The tightness in my chest was horrendous.
Wow.
And so this went on for a few months. Um, then one morning I was due to go into work and I got a phone call to say my niece, 18-year-old niece, had ended her life.
Oh, it's
And that
terrible.
and that was like the fuse had gone then, mate. I just remember dropping to my knees in the kitchen and my partner went, "You're not going to work today. You're going to phone in sick."
Yeah.
Um,
Did you?
I did. I phoned
Yeah.
in sick, mate. I could barely speak.
Yeah.
I was broken, man. I was a fucking broken man. Um, got myself together, went to my sister's house, and my nieces were like, "What can you do? Can you save her?" You know, because I was a firefighter.
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, I can't." And I was broken, man.
Sorry. Soul contracts.
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
mate.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. It's okay. Take all the time you need. I've
Um,
forgotten. I've forgotten what a soul contract is,
uh,
but I remember hearing about it when I heard you speak the first time.
uh,
So, um,
okay.
yeah,
Right.
could
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Ex
Yeah. And that
yeah.
was, well, it was a new term to me, mate. It was a new term to me. So this was early days in my recovery journey. I'd been asked to go to this stroke workshop. Um, wasn't really sure why I was there. I didn't want to be there. It wasn't my thing. It was about chakras and stuff like that. Really Reiki practitioner now. How things change.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But the woman who put the event on during the lunch break after I'd had a proper fucking cathartic meltdown release asked me to come to her house. She says, "We'll do some work, Andy. I'll help you out." I had no idea what the work was. It was Brandon Bay's journey work, which I now know is shamanic journey work. But in truth, the sessions I had with her mate weren't too dissimilar to hypnosis, but without a ritual induction.
okay.
Um, and if she'd told me at the time it's shamanic, I would have said, "Fuck that, I'm not doing witchcraft." I would have I would have run a fucking mile. Um, so I felt so vulnerable at the time.
Yeah.
But in truth, it was, yeah. So this one session I can remember, she got me to close my eyes and just tune into a physical sensation I had at the time, which is around my chest area, a lot of tension.
Hmm.
And she asked me, "What does it look like in your mind's eye?" And I said, "It looks like I've created a cave around my heart. I can just see loads of stone and rock around my heart," which kind of made sense to me because of my background. I was obviously trying to protect my heart.
Hmm.
But then sometime during that session, she got me to open my eyes and she was on her knees in front of me. And she said, "Andy, I'm those two kids in that car and we can't go till you let us go. Will you let us go?" And I'm like proper snotting bubbles at this point.
Wow.
She says, "Yeah, you were meant to be there, your soul contract to be there, but you weren't meant to hold that grief and pain. And we can't leave until you let us go. Will you let us go?" And I'm like, "Fucking hell, yeah, let you go."
Oh, I
And that,
see.
and she knew I was a firefighter, mate, but she did not know any details about any job because I'd never told anybody.
So she didn't know. There was no way she
No,
could have known about his two
no,
kids.
no, because I'd never told anybody. And she knew,
Wow.
well, I knew which job it was because there's only the one job with two kids. The rest were all different numbers of people.
Wow.
So I knew which job it was. And that job was when my life had changed, when that kind of cloud came over me, whatever it was.
That's
And
just
and
made
that
the hair stand up again.
yeah, and I question now, was that heaviness, that thing, was it them kids?
You
I, don't-
carrying.
yeah, I don't know, mate. I don't know, but
Mm,
something shifted and lifted that day when she done
something
that work with
shifted,
me.
shifted and lifted.
Yeah. Again,
How interesting.
that term soul contract I never heard before, and I said to her, I wish I'd read the fucking small print.
You wish you had the small print.
I wouldn't have fucking signed up for this.
Fair game, Andy. So, but first time I saw you being hypnotized was Carl Smith was doing I think he was doing kinetic shift on you.
No, he was just doing a content-free hypnosis
He
session.
was. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
And I obviously I saw that, and you can see that on YouTube. I think that's on YouTube. And the before and after pictures of you, before you got rid of that some of that trauma, because
yeah,
you've obviously carrying a lot of trauma around with you, and after, like the change is night and day.
yeah.
How does that work for the audience that
I guess, mate, like it's a good analogy, isn't it? Carrying that trauma, and I guess we're carrying it in our body, our sinew, our organs. If you know, and even your audience know, people don't say, "I think I'm anxious. I think I'm depressed. I think I've been traumatized." They say, "I feel it. I feel anxious. I feel depressed. I feel scared." You feel all those things in your body. Um, and I'm not really sure why it manifested in me in terms of the way I looked. I looked absolutely, yeah, my eyes looked like black coal, didn't they? They were lifeless.
Hmm.
And then 12 months later, after the shifting stuff with Carl, with the hypnosis and doing loads of work with the EFT, it just felt that trauma, whatever it was, buddy, was no longer in my sinew. It was no longer in my body. It was
Hmm.
gone.
Gone?
Yeah. And And I know it was gone because I could look at all those events and it wouldn't, and I don't like to use the word trigger, but it wouldn't evoke strong,
Hmm.
unwanted emotions and feelings in me.
Hmm.
I
Why
felt
don't you like
more,
the word trigger?
um, I don't know, I think it's just a bit aggressive, a bit sharp.
Yeah.
And again, if you're working with veterans,
Oh
it
yeah.
mean completely different to a veteran.
Mm.
Yeah, if you said, "What's that trigger, Matt?" And they'll go, "What the fuck do you know about trigger?" No, especially
Mm.
if you're a therapist that's a non-veteran.
Yes. That's
I
a good
know.
point.
Might have a different meaning to those guys. So yeah, it's just something that evokes a strong, unwanted feeling within you.
Hmm.
To me,
Thank.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So, what type of people do you work with? If there was, anybody listening, that would like to work with you, what are the types of people that you work with and the types of conditions that you treat?
um, when I was doing one-to-one work, it was all trauma. It's almost like my journey attracted those kind of clients, really, and I felt comfortable with that. It's almost all those life experiences. Like I've got a book, literally a bookshelf behind me of those experiences. And when I want to come through the door, I felt I could handle it because nothing is worse than for me than what I've kind of faced myself, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've found over the last couple of years, I've been taking a step back from doing one-to-one because I feel I've got a bit of a calling to get the message out there of hope and recovery from PTSR.
PTSR.
Yeah, PTS, post-traumatic stress response. Where when I was seeing one-to-one clients, you're limited with your numbers.
Yeah.
Physically, you're limited with your numbers. And I feel it's more important to get the message out there because I know enough therapists now, good therapists as well. I'm happy to signpost.
Yeah.
Um, and for me to get the message out there that you can recover from these labels, yeah, you've got to do the work. Because I think when I said at the beginning, during when I was poorly, Facebook challenge for veterans, 21 push-ups a day for the 21 veterans who end their lives every day. When I was seeing that, I felt there was no hope, mate. I felt fucking hell, am I going to be one of those 21?
Yeah.
It was all too raw because of the suicide of my niece, because I'd been to body recovery as a firefighter of people who'd ended their lives, because I'd seen it in the hostels where I'd worked as well in between my days off from the fire. I knew what worked, what didn't work, what wouldn't have worked. It was just proper in my face, mate.
Mhm.
And it felt like I was possibly sleepwalking towards that same end,
Yeah.
out of my control.
Hmm.
And I needed to see hope. I needed to see people on Facebook that had been down that road and recovered and got well and were not just surviving but thriving.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I want to do more talks with companies, with businesses, with workforces,
Hmm.
um, any kind of group, mate, really, just to
Hmm.
pass that knowledge on, pass some tools and techniques on rather than doing the one-to-one. And it has been a bit of an ethical battle actually, whether to drop the one-to-one or not, because
Okay.
I've got the skills and understanding and knowledge.
Hmm.
Part of me thinks it's a shame not to use it. So I'll have to be really disciplined with my boundaries when people do call.
Yeah.
Um, but I've got to be strong with those boundaries
Hmm.
and trust that who I send them to can do the job.
That's right. So, Recovery and Hope, where can people find you if they'd like to ask you to speak?
LinkedIn or Facebook, Andy Steele Alchemy, and Instagram, Steele Andy. Find me there.
Andy, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope to have you back on again in the future. So,
Nice one, mate. I hope I didn't ramble on too much.
not at
And
all.
and I'm
Not at
sorry
all.
about the cramp halfway through.
That was funny.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Glad you're all right.
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
So,
I'm good.
um, so this concludes another episode of the Hero's Journey podcast. And remember to leave a 5-star review. Okay, thanks very much, everybody. Thanks, Andy.